Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Himanshu Arora from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to study a module named Raw Materials for Stone Tools from the paper Research Methods and Fieldwork. First, let's start with the learning objectives of the module. Through this module, you will get some idea on the basic stone types used by the Stone Age people to make their tools. You will learn basic qualities and fracture properties of the rocks and minerals which are ideal for making stone tools, and you will also have some basic ideas on the raw material procurement strategies used by the prehistoric people. Now, let's briefly discuss the lithic raw materials. The appearance of stone tool technology in course of hominid evolution marks a radical behavioral shift from the rest of the animal world. Humans and human-like creatures were making stone tools before the discovery of fire. In this regard, it can be argued that the stone or rock has been one of the most important kind of raw material during most of the human existence. Archaeological evidences show that in the course of human history, earliest evidences of using stone tools dated back to 2 to 3 million years ago. Use of stone tools for various day-to-day activities continues even today, like the use of stone mortar and pestle and occasionally use of stone utensils in daily activities. The reasons behind using stone as primary raw material for tool making are that it is very hard and able to produce sharp working edges when fractured. A wide range of tasks can be executed with even a simple stone technology, including animal butchery, woodworking like chopping, scraping, sawing, hide scraping, plant cutting, and bone and antler working. Although other perishable materials such as wood, bone, horn, and shell were probably used early in the evolution of hominid technology, tools made of stone are relatively indestructible and so provide the longest and most detailed record of prehistoric tool manufacture. Stone tools supplemented biology as a means of adapting to the environment during the course of human evolution, and the study of their manufacture and potential uses reveal important information about the evolution of human culture. Quality or property of lithic raw material. The important rocks used by the prehistoric people for making majority of their tools belong to mainly one of the main mineral group, the quartz group of the rocks, which has a single chemical constituent SiO2 and a number of important physical characteristics in common. Varieties within the group have important differences in color, luster, fracture properties, specific gravity, external shape and size, origin, occurrence, impurities, transparency, and other features. But these differences are overshadowed by a few qualities in common. Of these, an important one is the extreme hardness, an average of 7 on the 10-degree scale. Only topaz, corundum, and diamond are harder. An essential quality of many varieties of quartz which determined its choice by man was isotropism, that is glassy quality, that is completely uniform physical property in all directions, as opposed to crystalline rocks. In nature, quartz can be found in two different varieties. One is crystalline and the other is non-crystalline variety. In crystalline variety, quartz crystals are often encountered in the form of rock crystal. The quartz crystal may be large or elongated hexagonal prism terminating in hexagonal pyramids. It is characteristic of this that the individual crystals have isotropic structure and do not break down into new crystals or crystalline grains, as is the case with many other non-isotopic materials with the completely ill-knit structure. Non-crystalline silica, on the other hand, is known to us as flint, Chalcedony, Obsidian, Agate, Jasper, Quartzite, etc. These groups of rocks also have isotropic properties and they give a distinct type of fracture. Due to these facts, when broken, all these crystalline and non-crystalline groups of rocks produce extremely sharp cutting edge which may be 210 to 1050 times sharper than the surgical steel knife, 100 to 500 times sharper than a razor blade, and 3 times sharper than a diamond blade. Now we will give you a brief description of different lithic raw materials. The study of rocks in archaeology is based mainly on chemical, physical, geological and mineralogical investigation. This entails identifying the composition of the stone, characterizing its structure and other physical properties, and elucidating the changes that it may have undergone since it was created or last used. More specific studies of stone, however, are often conducted in the framework of petrology, the science that deals with the origin, composition and structure of rocks, and petrography, the classification and systematic description of rocks. Besides the geochemical and geophysical methods of identification of lithic raw materials, fracture properties of various rocks must be known by the archaeologists for understanding the variation in lithic tools as well as for understanding typotechnological attributes of lithic artifacts. Quartz. Quartz is the second most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust. It is hard, 7 on Mohs scale, and resistant to many forms of chemical weathering. The chemical composition of quartz is 99% of SiO2 and some impurities of other minerals. In natural condition, quartz may be found as macrocrystalline variety and microcrystalline variety. Several microcrystalline varieties of quartz are common in nature, especially as sedimentary and metamorphosed rock. Among the members of chert group, including flint, chert and jasper, are composed of an aggregate of microcrystalline quartz crystal. On the other hand, members of Chalcedony group, which includes Chalcedony, carnelian and agate, are characterized by aggregates of sheaves of radiated microscopic water-bearing silica crystals. Large quartz crystals are usually watery, transparent in color with glassy luster. This variety of quartz usually fractures in flat conchoidal form and is not very suitable for making prehistoric tools. Large quartz crystals were very rarely used by the prehistoric people to make their tools. In Zhoukoudian of China, a very few implements made on large quartz crystal are recovered by the archaeologists. However, grainy quartz is found to be used in various sites of France and Spain, and is also found that sophisticated technologies like Levalloisian technology were successfully applied on this variety of raw material. Use of large quartz crystals and milky white quartz are found at a number of lower Paleolithic sites of eastern India. Works of Ghosh et al. In West Bengal, Mohapatra in Orissa and Ghosh in Singhbhum region of Jharkhand have shown that lower Paleolithic people of this region used a significant amount of locally available quartz pebble to make their tool. Now we talk about obsidian. Obsidian is a natural glass produced by volcanic action. It is related chemically by rhyolite and granite and therefore includes large amounts of non-silica minerals such as potassium, feldspar as well as quartz. Obsidian contains 75% of quartz into it. It has hardness 6 in Mohs scale and its specific gravity is 2.35 to 2.5. Extremely rapid cooling of the molten rock prevented the formation of distinct crystals, which is what distinguishes obsidian from its chemical relatives. Usually the color is dark, most often black, but there are also red, brown, striped, green, grey, silver and clear obsidian. Textures range from perfectly homogeneous and glassy to rather crystalline with a grainy, sugary texture. Some obsidian has crystals, bits of tuff or other inclusions, or strange cracks and stress lines from uneven cooling. In nature, Obsidian occurs in large massive flows in some places and as lumps or beds in rhyolite flows. Obsidian was prized by many prehistoric groups. Uses of obsidian for making tools have been recorded from lower Paleolithic times. In Europe, use of obsidian is recorded from Satani dar Armenia, where Acheulean hand axes are found to be made on obsidian blocks. However, maximum use of obsidian is recorded in various sites of North and South America. The Hopewell mounds in Ohio contained several hundred pounds of obsidian from the Yellowstone area. And obsidian from various sources in California was carried out across the Sierra Nevada mountains and spread far and wide across the region. In more advanced cultures of Mesoamerica, specialist knappers made millions of blades and other artifacts on an industrial scale, and trade and control of the obsidian sources was a factor in the rise and fall of the cities. Chalcedony is made up of microcrystals of quartz, as in flint. It seems that Chalcedony differs from flint and chert either because it has smaller intercrystalline pores and thus less water content, or because its crystal grow in bundles of radiating fibers rather than forming grains. Chalcedony has different varieties which are known as chrysoprase, carnelian, quartzine and sapphirine, etc. The rock has hardness 7 in the hardness scale of Mohs scale, has specific gravity of 2.65. The rock also has different color and opaque in nature. When fractured, the rock gives flat conchoidal fracture and produces very sharp and thin edge. In nature, chalcedony occurs as crust in kidney-shaped lumps and spherulites forming in the voids of veins or fissures in magmatic rock. The use of chalcedony as lithic raw material started from Paleolithic times in different countries, but in India, use of chalcedony is mainly found during Mesolithic times. A number of important Mesolithic sites of central India like Bhimbhetka Rock Shelter Complex, Adamgarh Rock Art Site, Bagaur of Madhya Pradesh and Madaha of Uttar Pradesh have evidence of chalcedony as major raw materials for production of stone tools. Agate belongs to the quartz group of the rocks. It has several varieties like sardonyx, carcinonyx, etc. This variety of rocks have a specific gravity of 2.5 to 2.7 and hardness of 7 in Mohs scale. Color of this group of rocks varies a lot. It may be opaque, dull sheen or matte. When fractured, it produces flat conchoidal fracture like chalcedony. Produced flakes are thin and very sharp. On a fractured or polished surface, horizontal or concentric rings or lines of different colors are visible. Due to the presence of these rings or lines, agate is sometimes known as banded agate. In nature, agate is formed in many effusive rocks. In natural condition, agate is found in condensed condition in almond-shaped or larger forms within igneous rocks. The use of agate is usually found during Mesolithic times. In India, use of agate as raw material is mainly found in Mesolithic sites of central part of India like Adamgarh Rock Art Site. Sometimes it is also found that agate has been used as semi-precious stone and is used in making stone beds in early historic times. Chert and flint. Chert and flints are very similar material. However, some archaeologists and petrologists tried to find out a distinction between these two rocks, but sometimes these differences are very confusing. It is found that chemically and structurally chert and flint are essentially the same. Both of these rocks belonging to the quartz group of rock with hardness 6 to 7 in Mohs scale and have a specific gravity of 2.37 to 2.67. Besides silicon dioxide, these rocks contain traces of sand, clay and other materials. Color ranges from dark grey to greenish and sometimes pinkish. Cherts and flints are usually found as nodules or beds that form as secondary deposits in rock that are mostly composed of calcium carbonate, that is, limestone and chalks. Most nodules have a rough and often calcareous surface called cortex. The finest flints and cherts have conchoidal, smooth and almost glassy fracture surface, but still are good and tougher than obsidian and volcanic glass. Cherts and flints are extensively used from lower Paleolithic times to Neolithic times in European countries. In Neolithic Europe, a number of flint mines were present, where from flint nodules were extracted probably on an economic basis. In India, use of flint is not found, however. Chert has been used by the Mesolithic people on an enormous amount. Almost all microlithic sites of eastern part of India bring forward evidence of the use of chert as a primary source of raw material for lithic tools. Important Mesolithic sites of central India like Chapani Mando, Sarai Nahar Rai and Mahadaha have evidences of the use of chert on an extensive basis. Now, jasper. Jasper is a quartz group of rock with a hardness of 7 to 6.5 in Mohs scale. In general, the rock contains 70 to 73% of pure quartz, the remaining part being admixture of clay and oxides of iron, which gives jasper its varied colors. Rarely banded or spotty jaspers are found. This rock gives a rough conchoidal fracture with matte surface which is almost rough. Flakes are therefore irregular and technically worse than flint and chert. In nature, jasper is usually found in the rock deposits of Paleozoic origin. Use of this rock type is found in Paleolithic period of Central Asia and Neolithic times of several countries. In India, few Mesolithic sites present evidences of the use of jasper. Quartzite. The traditional definition of quartzite tells us that this type of rock is metamorphosed sandstone which fractures through individual grains rather than around them. This fracture quality is a consequence of the crystallographic reorganization and induration of the entire original sandstone. Quartzite can be of two different types. One is sedimentary variety and the other is metamorphosed variety. Sedimentary quartzites with its specific characteristics are termed as orthoquartzites, whereas metamorphic quartzites of quartzites are known as metaquartzite. Both these quartzite varieties can produce good conchoidal fracture, and prehistoric people used both varieties of quartzite to make their tools. Metaquartzites contains more than 90% of quartz and are derived from quartz-rich sandstone or chert protoliths. The difference in the formation of orthoquartzites and metaquartzites lies in the true metamorphism of the sandstone, which is present only in metaquartzite. Regarding the use of quartzite in prehistoric time, it can be said that tools made on quartzite are known from the earliest hominid levels, that is from Homo and Olduvai George of Africa, following Semenov. Thus, it can be said that Paleolithic people used quartzite as primary raw material to make their tools in those countries where flint was absent or was scarce. Uses of quartzite raw material in lower Paleolithic times are mainly found from African and Asian countries where flint is not available, in contrast to Europe. Earliest evidence of the use of quartzite dates back to the Oldowan industry of Africa, the earliest known lower Paleolithic industry of the world. Evidences of the use of cobble and pebble-sized quartzite raw material by prehistoric knappers for making their tools are found. Diorite. This group of rock contains little quartz or none at all. Basic mineral constituent is feldspar and also contains hornblende, agate and sometimes black mica. Hardness of this group of rock ranges from 6 to 6.5 in Mohs scale with specific gravity of 2.8 to 2.85. The rock is grey, dark grey or greenish grey in color. Due to this, sometimes this rock is known as greenstone. When fractured, the rock gives feeble conchoidal fracture and a rough fractured surface with small or fine grains. In nature, the rock is usually found in rocky outcrops of igneous origin, usually used by Paleolithic people, whether other rocks are absent. For example, Lower Paleolithic of Central Asia has evidences of use of this rock type. During Neolithic, this rock was used in plenty for its toughness and grounded axes and edges were used for this raw material. Rhyolite. It is magmatic rock of tertiary origin or post-tertiary origin. It contains quartz, but its basic constituent is feldspar. Hardness of this rock is 6 in Mohs scale and specific gravity is 2.3 to 2.7. Color ranges from white to grey, sometimes with yellow and red specks. The rock usually gives conchoidal fracture and the fractured surface gives dull sheen with a rough, uneven surface. Like basaltic rocks, it occurs in the outcrops of volcanic rocks. Rhyolite was used by the Mesolithic people of Southeast Asia and other countries. The Mesolithic sites of West Medinipur and Purulia districts of West Bengal have evidence of extensive use of this rock for the production of lithic artifacts. Now, the basalt group of rocks, that is trap, dolerite, metadolerite, etc. These are young magmatic rocks of igneous origin. Feldspar and pyroxene are the basic components of this group of rock and presence of quartz is absent. These rocks have hardness of 6 to 6.5 with a specific gravity of 2.6 to 3.11. Usually these rocks are black or dark grey in color. Among these groups of rock, metadolerite or altered basalt is important in Indian context. So a brief description of these rocks are: the term metadolerite refers to the variably altered dolerite rocks. In general, it can be said that metadolerite is a type of volcanic rock which can be broadly classified with the gabbroic group of rocks. It is mentioned earlier that this rock is an altered form of dolerite. Therefore, some general features of dolerite can be seen within metadolerite. Regarding dolerite, it can be said that it is an igneous rock with grain size intermediate between basalt and gabbros. In general appearance, its color is dark. It has high specific gravity. Mineral composition include proxene and feldspar, which can be recognized in the weathered parts of the rock. Texturally, the rock is medium or fine-grained and feldspar-laths occur in crisscross fashion in it. Hardness of dolerite is similar with other basalt group of rocks and it scores with 7 to 8 in the Mohs scale of hardness. In general, it can be said that metadolerite and dolerite are both quite hard rock, which gives conchoidal to flat conchoidal fracture. Due to these extreme hardness, the rocks were not profoundly used during prehistoric times. Use of dolerite and other basaltic or other form of tough igneous rocks are mainly found during Neolithic and usually various ground and polished woodworking tools were made on it. Lithic raw material procurement strategies. Study on the raw material procurement strategy of prehistoric people, that is observation concerning the provenance of raw material, their availability, abundance, use, etc. may result not only in the analysis of Stone Age economic system but also in the development of the behavioral perspectives. Even it is also observed that study of raw material procurement system of the prehistoric people may give fruitful answers regarding questions of territories, zones of influence, exchange and social interaction of past people. Analysis of raw material procurement strategies of prehistoric communities can be done following 3 different steps of study. They are provenance of raw material, local availability of raw material and transport of raw material to the campsite. In the study of provenance of raw material, an archaeologist has to find out correct source of raw material in a region. In this context, it is mentionable that a single region may yield both numerous and varied deposits of raw material source. It is worth mentioning that raw material accessibility may have varied through time depending on the changing landscape. So, the main task of an archaeologist is to trace the accurate sourcing of raw material of past people. It helps him to understand the lithic raw material procurement territory of various prehistoric group of the region. The next step is the assessment of the methods of procurement such as surface collection, mining, outcrop quarrying, etc. Understandings on the local availability of raw material may give archaeologists possible explanations regarding nature of the lithic tool types and tool making techniques. Moreover, regarding tool types of the preliminary stages of lithic reduction strategy. Next to this stage comes transport of raw material to the campsite. In this stage of study, Major emphases are posed on the understanding of the condition of raw material when they were transporting to the prehistoric campsites. Here, archaeologists try to answer some initial questions like, was the raw material transported as unworked or initially roughed out blocks? Were the preforms or the cores prepared at the source itself? Were the tools produced at the site, or were they fashioned elsewhere and then subsequently transported as end products? Partial answers can be given to these questions by examining artifacts with an eye for technology, by assessing, for instance, the proportion of cortical surfaces or the relative quantities of characteristic debitage and bifacial napping waste products, and above all by refining. Each of these possibilities or strategies can be detected when conditions allow and can be plausibly suspected in almost all major archaeological excavations and explorations. Let's summarize what we have studied till now. The term lithic material refers to the stones, rocks, or other form of hard material available naturally which were used by the prehistoric people to make artifacts. Reason behind using stone as primary raw material for tool making are that it is very hard and able to produce sharp working edges when fractured. Quality or properties of lithic material used include extreme hardness, isotropy or glassy character, and ability to produce conchoidal flake. Prehistoric people selected specific rocks or minerals as raw material for stone tools only on the basis of the fracture property of the raw material. Besides this typical fracture property, the lithic raw material must be elastic but brittle and homogeneous both in crystalline structure and in lacking cracks, inclusions, and other flaws. The study of rocks in archaeology is based mainly on chemical, physical, geological, and mineralogical investigation. This entails identifying the composition of the stone, characterizing its structure and other physical properties, and elucidating the changes that it may have undergone since it was created or last done. Besides the geochemical and geophysical methods of identification of lithic raw materials, fractured properties of various rocks must be known by the archaeologist for understanding variation in lithic tool as well as for understanding typotechnological attributes of lithic artifacts. The important rocks used by the prehistoric people for making majority of their tools belong to mainly one mineral group, the quartz group of rocks, which have a single chemical constituent, silicon oxide, and a number of important physical characteristics in common. Varieties within the group have important differences in color, luster, fracture properties, specific gravity, external shape, size, origin, occurrence, impurities, transparency, and other features. But these differences are overshadowed by a few qualities in common. Of these, an important one is the extreme hardness, an average of 7 on the 10-degree scale of Mohs. An essential quality of many varieties of quartz which determined its choice by men was isotropism, that is completely uniform physical property in all direction as opposed to crystalline rocks. Besides quartz group of rocks, few rocks of igneous origin like basalt, diorite, etc. were also used by the prehistoric people to make their tools. A basic constituent of these groups of rock is feldspar. Types of rock used by the prehistoric people varies from basalt to quartzite to obsidian. Even semi-precious rock like agate, nephrite, and jade were also used by the prehistoric people to make their tools. Besides understanding of the petrological and mineralogical properties, rock archaeologists also try to understand lithic raw material procurement strategies of prehistoric people. Study on the raw material procurement strategy of prehistoric people may result not only in the analysis of Stone Age economic system but also in the development of behavioral perspectives. Analysis of the raw material procurement strategies of prehistoric communities can be done following 3 different steps of study. They are provenance of raw material, local availability of raw material, and transport of raw material to the campsite. Study of raw material procurement system of the prehistoric people may give fruitful answers regarding questions of territories, zones of influence, exchange and social interaction of past people. Thank you.